So another little video I wanted to make sure I made, got out of the way. Something needs to be covered. I don't know if I mentioned, I think I did. I might have mentioned another video on the description for another video. That barn at Cedar Island Ranch was rat infested. But almost as often as I saw rats, I saw snakes all over the place there. They didn't seem to be doing much to cull the rat population. And snakes, I mean, they're fascinating. They're beautiful out in the woods. I think I said that at some point. When they're in or around a human habitation or a workplace, I won't tolerate them. That's a mother's instinct. We don't like snakes. Snakes hurt our babies. We don't like them around our babies or any place where our babies might be, and our babies are pets too. So if I see a snake out in the woods, unless I'm going to eat it, we're not going to mess with it. If it messes with me, there's all bets are off, you know. Because, you know, water moccasins and stuff, they can be territorial, and they'll come at you if you're in a kayak, let's say. Otherwise, that's their place out there. Fine. If I see one in my house or my garden where my cats are playing, or in the barn, and I'm already being told by Jorge that, oh yeah, they like to crawl up into the saddles too at night to sleep and get warm. So watch out when you take some of these saddles off the rack to go tack up the horse. Anyone working at Cedar Island Ranch in the future, in the barn, should keep that in mind. And anybody riding on the horses. The snakes like to crawl up in the saddles. So one night when I was staying a bit late and I was cleaning up the barn, pretty big snake slithered around back and forth across the main stretch in the middle of the barn. I guess they call it the shadow or something. And I'm like, nope. And picked up a shovel, and as quickly as I could, because I'm not interested in torturing an animal. But I'm also not going to tolerate an animal that could cause me trouble, cause my animals trouble, spook a horse, cause trouble there. And clearly, again, they're not doing much for the rat population. And I was thinking, like, my cats are here, they'll take care of the rats. I'd rather my cats than the slimy, slithery snakes. And they were, because my cats were bringing rats into the freaking RV, all right? So I picked up a shovel and beheaded that sucker and threw it in the horse poop pile out back behind the barn. I even made a video that I sent off to the barn manager, Jeremy, talking about, like, showing him the barn after I had started doing like a sorry, the kittens are being a little rambunctious. I made a video and sent it off to Jeremy, and it was like the day after I killed that snake, and I mentioned it in the video. Sent it off to Jeremy. After I did that, I mentioned to Jorge that I'd killed a snake. I'd seen a snake and killed it right there. And I went out. And I also, like, I'm not hip on the local snakes, and I don't want an issue with the venomous one either. So, like, nope, I'm not going to tolerate tolerated around my workplace or where I live. They need to stay out in the woods. So I mentioned to Jorge how I had seen a snake in the barn the night before and killed it, and showed him where it was out in the pile. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna tell boss of this place. And by the way, snakes can be every bit the vermin that rats can be. Okay? Do you know what you have to do with a chicken coop? The chicken house when it becomes snake infested? Nothing. You just burn that shit to the ground. And build a new one. Because no one's going to go fishing in there for snakes. They're just as shitty to be infested with. You do not want an infestation of snakes in your barn or building or anything like that. And I've seen too many of them. It's like the rats and the snakes were living together. Holding hands, friends. These dudes don't give a shit, so let's live happily ever after. It's like, yeah, nope. Time to die, sucker. I'll make this as quick and clean as possible, but a shovel on sand is not, unfortunately, a very clean cut. Did as fast as I could, like, oh shit, you still alive? I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this quick. It doesn't always work out the way I want. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Jorge got real, like, quiet. He was, well, at first he was like, yeah, tell him. And then he was like, actually, never mind, don't tell him. Jorge was like, don't tell Jeremy that you killed the snake. I was like, why not? At this point, I'd already gone to his website, or his Facebook wall, and saw all the Freemasonry stuff. And there's a lot of snake imagery connected, serpent imagery and snake imagery connected with Freemasonry and related orders and stuff. So Jorge was like, never mind, don't, I keep trying, like, my impulses to do the accent, but I know I'm gonna butcher it. Don't tell him. And I was like, why not? He was like, yeah, he likes snakes. He was just like saying, yeah, I think, he likes snakes. And I was like, oh yeah. And I just kind of said off the cuff as I was like walking past him, because we were just chatting. It got to the point where, like, Jorge and I would just chat while we were working. We'd be mucking a stall and chatting, putting away saddles or whatever and chatting. And we were towards the back of the barn, and I must have just put away a saddle or something, because I was walking from that and past him and then, like, over towards the hay. And I was like, yeah, those Freemasons, they sure do love their snakes, huh? I just said off the cuff, like, while I was walking past him. And it was like the air got sucked out of the room, out of the barn. After that, I noticed, for many days afterwards, Jorge and Quinn were trying to take my temperature, probe and prod, and find out what my religion was. Quinn even said something along the lines of, boss, he believes in a religion doesn't believe in, reincarnation. He doesn't believe in reincarnation. I was like, oh yeah, well, what's his religion? He's like, I don't know, but it's not reincarnation. He was trying very subtly to get me to say what I believed. And then Jorge, I knew exactly what they were trying to get. And I was being coy. So finally Jorge just flat out asked me in the barn office. It took them like a few days, basically, like, to try and, like, tease it out of me. And I was just like, you pansy ass cowards. Why don't you just fucking ask me? I didn't say that, but waiting for it. So Jorge finally asked me in the barn office, so you Catholic? Or I was like, I don't have religion. I'm an agnostic. Like, I believe in a higher power, but I don't trust that anyone religion has it figured out. I'm more of a religious academic, religious scholar. I study all kinds of religions, ancient religions, the three main religions of the day. Trace them all the way back to ancient tantric practices in the Aryan civilizations at the European steppes, ranging all the way over to Western India and Sanskrit. If you don't realize this, if you're one of the main three religions of the day, your religion comes from that. It goes way the heck back, way far. If I could sit and do a whole thing pointing out different connections between these ancient religions, talking about, they worshipped a deity called Manon. There are many deities, but Manon seemed to be a big one, and supposedly that's where we get the word man from. Yeah, Manon, as in that deity those idiots in the craft were worshipping. He's the fallen son. He's supposed to be the first most perfect man, which makes him the first Y chromosome, if you think about it. Because the Y chromosome is deteriorating every generation that it gets passed off. So if he was the first most perfect man, then he was the first Y chromosome before it ever began deteriorating. And supposedly he created the human race. Some people who don't pay attention to the story closely enough think that he was the progenitor of the human race, as in he seeded our race. Read the story again. They're very clear on this. He had sons, and they mention the sons. He has a blood lineage. But then, in the story, he created this other race called human. Sanskrit is a phonetic language. I have to remember it was who. It was who. In Sanskrit, it means who. The HU means to make sacrifice to. And then man comes from Manon. So to be human, there is, I promise you, I'm boiling this down. It looks like there's probably a group of people out there who secretly think themselves to be the blood lineage of this deity Manon, the first most perfect man. They would consider themselves to be of mankind. And they think that humankind was created to serve them. Manon supposedly made a species called human. And it meant to make sacrifice to Manon. Or sacrifice to Manon. As in, mankind was meant to use humankind for whatever it pleased. Is supposedly how the story goes. I think it was written by a bunch of narcissists. I think it was written by a bunch of butthurt, angry, narcissistic dudes who hated their mommies. And by extension, all women. We'll get into that with another video. But anyway, I didn't get into all that with Jorge, by the way. All I said to Jorge in the barn office, this is all my research and stuff. Sorry, yeah, I'm an academic scholar. I like reading about ancient religions. I like picking them apart psychologically and so on and so forth. Jordan Peterson lectures are kind of like right up my alley. It's like, dude, this guy knows how I think, what I think about too. Like, damn. I just said to Jorge in the barn office, I'm an agnostic. I believe in a higher power. I just don't think that any one religion has it figured out. I don't claim any side. I've found problems with just about every religion I've read about, looked into. And I've found great things from every religion that I've looked into. I'm not picking one. I just sort of I just kind of follow my own direction and my own gut and try to do what I feel is the right thing to do. And try to be a straightforward, open person. And that's, I pretty much just like left it at that with Jorge. I'm an agnostic. I believe in a higher power. I just don't know. I'm basically my life is trying to figure out what the F it is. I'm not listening to anyone else tell me what it is. Okay, so you guys want to listen to other people tell you what to think about all that. That's your prerogative. I have to concede, I was probably a difficult kid to raise. Because I've always been this way. I've always been like, why should I believe you? Why should I listen to you? Why should I trust you? Why should I go to bed? You don't go to bed at this time. Why should I go to bed at this time? Yeah, but so that was really kind of that the fact that the air got sucked out of the room when I said like, yeah, these Freemasons, they sure do like their snakes. And then Jorge and Quinn, the 16-year-old. So like, how'd this get around to the 16-year-old that why is the 16-year-old trying to suss out my religion for y'all? For you adult men. Why is he getting involved? Now, Quinn's father is very good friends with Jeremy. What are you guys doing? It's kind of creepy. Really creepy. Really. Like, trying to poke and prod and figure out all this shit about me. Anyway. Yeah, I just want to get that one out of the way. I'm trying to remember. I feel like there might have been something else I wanted to attach to it. I'll just make a tack on video. I'm just trying to keep these short, otherwise they're impossible to freaking upload.